A few months ago I made this jelly print, and it was these 3 flowers, kind of had a Georgia O'Keeffe feel to them, and I made them on my jelly plate. And I wanted to do something with them, so I turned them into cards, and then I wanted to make some envelopes. So today I'm going to show you how I made the envelopes. This is the print that I had made, and I scanned it in, and then I sized it down so it would fit 4 to an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I cut it out on cardstock, but before I printed it, I put these little designs on a couple of them, and it's just from my Silhouette cutting machine. I was able to put some little decorative designs like this flower farm. It was just a little SVG that I had, and then the Happy Mother's Day, I kind of created that and then printed it out and made a simple card. Well, I was able to make 2 cards, and actually I have 2 more that I can make into cards. So now I have my envelope number 1 that I'm going to make. This is going to be more of a red color to it, and so I'm starting with this magenta color, and then I'm putting in the light red. This is more of like an orangey kind of a red. And then I'll put in some white and just kind of mix those colors all together. I am using my golden fluid acrylic paints today. That is what I used when I made my print with the flowers. So I thought I'd go with the same colors because then I knew they would match very nicely with the prints. I have a smaller 5x7 gel plate off to the side, and I'm just using that to brayer off some of my color. I also wanted to try to reserve some of that color. It's golden paints and they're not very cheap, so anytime I can use those colors all the way, I will try to use them on multiple gel plates if I have to. Here I have paper doilies that I got from Dollar Tree. I got a couple of different designs. Some of them are in like the party section, some are in like the wedding section, and others might be in the crafter square section. I can't really remember where all of them are located, but they all might be different at Dollar Trees. But these were really cheap, little paper doilies that I could put on my gel plate. This one, the smaller one, has little roses around the edge of it, and then in the inside it has a really cool, almost like a dotted design. And then these other larger ones, they look kind of like gears, but they also have little flowers in some of the little details. So these look really cool when you brayer them out. I am using my little brayer just to press down on them so that the detail will press into that paint. And I wanted to fill in more of the background, so I just took my brayer in any of these spaces where I didn't remove the design, and I just went over it with my doily until I filled in the background. I did let the paint on my plate dry, and then I wanted to come in with some pearl powders. This is Perfect Pearls by Ranger, and I'm using this rose, kind of like a rosy pink, but it's kind of white. I don't know, it's an interesting color, but it looks more rose to me when I put it on my gel plate. Then I have an actual pink color. The pink is a little bit darker than the rose, and then I have the purple. So I'm just using those 3 colors. I'm not going over the entire background with these pearl powders. I'm just filling in areas all around the plate, but I will leave some areas without any pearl powders. No rhyme or reason to it, just wanted to do a little bit with and a little bit without. So here I have my blues. I'm going to go over the top with my blues and greens. I started with my turquoise, and I have my green yellow shade, and then I'll do some yellow, and I'll do it's the brighter color of yellow. And then I'll put some white to mix all the colors together. And I'll just brayer all those colors together just like I did the first layer. Not really worrying too much. I know all these colors will blend together nicely, so I will just make them all roll out evenly, and whatever design is left on the plate from the paint blobs I was going to be okay with, because I thought that that would add interest to the background. And I was able to brayer off the leftover paint onto my smaller gel plate. And I'm ready to pull this print. So first I'm putting my 8.5 by 11 piece of copy paper on my gel plate, just pressing that down, and I'm going to let this dry completely. While that's drying, I'm going to work on my smaller gel plate. I'm just putting a little bit of the doily texture on the blue that I just added to the plate. Just filling in the background just like I did on the large plate. And then I'm going to let this plate dry, all the paint on this plate dry. And now I'm ready to pull my first jelly print. This has really nice contrasting colors with the pinkish red in the foreground and the blues and greens in the background and the yellows. I think that these make the design pop. Plus, when you hold it in the light at an angle, you can see those pearl powders shining on it. But when you hold it where it's not shining in the light, you don't see the pearl powders and you still can see the blues through it. So I thought that was a really cool effect, that the pearl powders didn't completely block the color behind it. For this little print, I'm going to use my Amsterdam acrylics. This is just a pearl red, but it looks more like a pink. And while that one dries, I'm going to come back to my larger gel plate and work on envelope number 2. This one I'm going to add a little bit of purple with my reds. And to do that, I'm adding blue with the magenta. That's going to mix together to make a really pretty purple. This purple color is so pretty with all these colors mixed together. Since I had my gel plate with some paint already on it and it was drying, I just went ahead and brayered off the extra paint from this one. But if I had another gel plate out, I would have put it onto another gel plate. This time I'm starting with my small doily in the center, and then I'm just going to work these other doilies around the edge of it. On this one, I'm removing more of the paint than I did on the first one. I let that dry, and now I'll come back in with my perfect pearls. And same thing, I'm not going to cover the entire background. I'm just going to do some areas with those same 3 colors. I'm going to pull up this smaller gel print. Now I didn't put my paper down fast enough, so some of the paint started drying on the edges, but I think I still got a pretty good print here. I will go over my second print for the envelope with my blues and greens again. I'll add in some yellow as well and blend it all with white. My gel plate is empty, so I went ahead and brayered that color off onto my smaller gel plate. And I'm ready to pull this second envelope print. This is my jelly print placement tool. Most of you, if you've watched my videos, you know what this is and how I made it, but if you're curious, I'll link it in the description below how I made that. While that's drying, I'm just adding a little bit of the doily texture to the small gel plate. And the small gel plate ended up drying pretty quickly, so now I'm going to pull this print by using this is a metallic pink color by CraftSmart. I'll set that aside to dry, and now I can work on pulling up this print. And this one looks really cool too, but you can see it's a totally different feeling than the first one. Because I removed more paint and I used blue in the first layer, it has more of a purple feel and it leads more in the green and blue category, where the other one has more of the reds and pinks. So this one has more of my purple outline, so I think that one goes well with the purples and blues, and then this one has the green. I think that one goes well with the other print. And I'm just going to remove this last little print here. This one came up nicely. So now I'm going to cut these gel prints and make my envelopes. I have my Fiskars cutting tool, and it's just going to help me line up my gel prints to cut off the extras, and then I'm going to cut it down to where I will make an envelope. I was going to make this one be an envelope that was going to start with an 8 1/8 by 8 1/8 base, but I ended up messing up on my cut on the side, and I'll show you what I mean. So I did have to make a smaller envelope, but it still fit my card, so that was good. So this side measured 8 1/8, and when I turned it, this whole side only measures 8 1/2. Not thinking about it, I just kind of cut down, but I had cut way too far in. So now what I was left with wasn't even 8 inches. And so I couldn't get 8 1/8 out of this. So I was a little bit shy on what I needed to make this envelope work. So I decided to use some different measurements on my little envelope maker. There's different measurements to make different sized envelopes, so I just cut it down to 7 7/8 square, and that gave me this. And then it's down on the bottom left of my punch tool. Then I score it at 4 1/4. Once all my edges are scored, now I can go in and round the tips with the corner rounder. And now I just have to fold along the creases. Because this did have a smaller envelope size, I wanted to make sure before I pressed down on my edges that my card really did fit inside. And it did, it fit in nicely. I even left just a little bit of space, so I came out a little bit from where my score line was, just to make sure my card was going to fit in there and not get stuck. And you can see there's this white line hanging off. That's because I cut it too short. So I'm going to use that second gel print that I had made on the small gel plate, and I'm going to just line it up with my envelope fold, right where it folds, and I'm just using my pencil to trace the envelope flap. And then I'll just cut that out. Of my smaller gel plates, both of them had a warmer, like a more red one and a more blue one. So I just did the opposite. This was my more blue gel print envelope, and so I used the more red looking gel print, and I used that on the top of this flap. That way I could have some contrast on the backside of my envelope. And then it would also cover up that white space. Now you could get creative with this. If you didn't want to cover up the entire thing, you could just cut with maybe some decorative edge scissors. You could cut away just where that stripe of white is and just fill in there, almost like collage. Or you could even, if you didn't mind having that, you could put this piece in the inside of the flap. So you could just definitely get creative with how you use these and how you decorate the envelopes. After I lined it up, I could see a little bit of the white showing through on the flap, so I just used my small scissors to trim the white part off so that you couldn't see it anymore. And now I'm ready to glue my envelope together. For this flap, I do like to press the top flap down to make it a flat edge. So I did put glue on the tip there. I'll press it in, glue it down, and then I'll press it over the flaps. To me, this has a cleaner feel to it than the flap hanging out. I just like it better, but you don't have to do that. And here is the envelope. The flap has some stability also because I glued on top of it, so that is a nice bonus. The card fits in there nicely, and the envelope looks really cool. It's very fun seeing an envelope like this because it adds so much interest to the card. It matches, it looks nice together. So now let's work on the other envelope. This time I paid a little more attention to my edges and I cut them at 8 1/8. And so I'm making an 8 1/8 square piece, and then this is what I'm going to use to make my envelope. For this one, I measure in at 3 5/8. I'm ready to cut down my small gel print to put on my cover of this one, just so that the two envelopes match. So I'm doing the same thing where I trace along the flap. And then I'll cut that out and glue it on top. I'm going to glue the flaps together the same way I did with the other envelope. And there we have our second completed envelope. And they both fit my cards nicely. This red one was the one that was measured a little bit larger. It actually leaves room. I like this size because I do tend to use foam tape on my cards. I didn't use it on these two, so that's why this smaller one happened to work out just nicely, because I didn't have very much bulk to these cards. But if I usually have bulk, I'll use the 8 1/8 inch measurement just to give me a little bit of room inside my envelope. But I think they both turned out really nice. They look super cool, especially when you show them in the light and the pearl powders pick up on them. It just adds so much interest to them. And then having the flaps look a little bit different, I think it just adds a lot of interest, and it pops against the background of the envelope. I also think they go nice with the cards. So this purple one I think goes nice with the bluer one, and then the green background one goes better with the red, and it just has some really nice colors in it that tie it together. So this was just a Mother's Day example, just happens to be Mother's Day, but I have this other card example too, so you can see how you can use this in a variety of ways. So I hope that gave you some inspiration to try something new with your jelly prints and make maybe some envelopes. You could even make the envelope junk journals that I've seen on the Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist group. I think these would be really cool as a base for that. So let me know what you think and if you would give these a try. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting.